So, in this segment, we're going to be talking about bin collectors in the UK leaving to become HGV drivers. Now, I believe someone pointed out in the comments that there's a further license that they need to become a heavy goods vehicle license, to get a heavy goods vehicle license. But obviously, the idea is that these guys have experience driving a big vehicle. It's not necessarily heavy, but big, and that puts them in a much better spot than a new applicant to drive a lorry. Anyways, households are being warned of a Christmas crisis in multiple regards, really, when you look at all the different warnings from the different sectors. In bin collections, as drivers quit their jobs for better pay for supermarkets and food hauliers. Now, those people who argue, I just pay them more, the problem is these aren't paid by industry, they're paid by the council. And so that would mean an increase in council tax, which people aren't typically happy about. No one's happy about council tax, really. Bin lorry drivers are being offered pay deals worth as much as £40,000 a year to switch to jobs in the food industry. One council in Lancashire has said last week it had lost almost half its drivers in the last 3 months. So that's a massive loss, especially since it takes time to become a refuge driver. So it's a big vehicle you got to drive. Residents in councils from Devon to London to Peterborough have already seen some collections suspended or delayed. Luckily, that has not happened where I live, and I hope that continues to not happen because that's a nightmare scenario. Talking a massive public health problem. There's also been complaints about overflowing bins and missed rounds in areas affected by staff shortages. Terrifying situation all round. Bin lorry drivers earning about $25,000 a year can boost their salaries by more than 60% by going to work for supermarkets, and you can see the kind of problem that the HGV driver crisis has caused, because it's causing problems in other industries. I've got no objection to these guys getting paid more. Potentially, if I had to pay more council tax to go to bin lorry drivers, I'd be happy with that, considering their jobs are essential. Really are some of the most important people, honestly, in the economy. So I wouldn't mind that particularly, but if the bins aren't being collected and people are still paying council tax, they would be very annoyed. I would be very annoyed if that is the case. So Jacob Haler, Chief Executive of the Environmental Services Association, the trade body representing the UK's waste management industry, said there was a vacancy rate of about 15% among waste contractors, which will only get bigger as HGV driving becomes more appealing to people. He called for the government to include HGV drivers among the shortage list, among the list of shortage occupations. Let's not forget that list includes ballet dancers and choreographers, which is insane, and increase the number of lorry driving tests to avoid a Christmas crisis, because what he wants is more kind of new people to go into lorry driving. That way, sort of refuge drivers won't be dragged in to the vacuum of the lack of HGV drivers. He said the UK is short of more than 100,000 drivers, resulting in disrupted collections that will only come under greater pressure as we near Christmas, when waste volumes typically rise by 30% as people drink and eat a lot more. The latest figures from the Local Government Association Workforce Survey show bin services in more than half of councils which responded in England and Wales being disrupted by staff shortages. So this is a real nightmare scenario. You're talking winter of discontent levels of frustration when bins aren't being collected, because again, it's a massive public health crisis when you've got bins being left out in the street, because you're going to get rats, and rats cause other problems, not to mention the fact that I'm really scared of those, as most people are. Ribley Valley Council in Lancashire said last week that 6 of its 13 drivers had resigned and it was struggling to fill the post. Stephen Atkinson, leader of the council, said, "We are maintaining a full service but seeing a huge turnover in drivers." So potentially Ribble Valley Council may face a shortage of drivers to the point where certain bins won't be collected. Council leaders in Devon warned that their vacancy rates were up 20% for bin lorry drivers, so potentially a shortage. Well, they put the numbers here actually. Alistair Dewhurst, deputy leader of Tainbridge Council in South Devon, said the council had 11 vacancies in 52 drivers in its waste collection. So you're talking worse than 1 in 10 really. So around 2 in 10 potentially. Waste collection services and councils were competing with supermarkets and their supplies for drivers, and in that case supermarkets will always win because the money is more and the job is less smelly. He said there'd always been a risk of drivers being poached, but we've never seen anything like this. We're also having to collect more waste because of people working at home. So a double whammy of people working at home, so you're going to have more pedestrian waste. Companies typically have it contracted out to like bigger companies like Biffa and whoever else deal with it. But if you're at home, you don't have that luxury, so it's up to the council to deal with it. Councils in Devon, Oxfordshire, Surrey and Cambridgeshire have suspended garden waste services. Where I live in Northampton, they actually charge you more money for that. Hardingay Council in North London said last week its waste collections may have been delayed by up to 72 hours due to the national shortage of HGV drivers. Now, imagine if you put your bins out and 2 days later they're not collected. Sorry, not even 2 days, about 4 days later they're not collected. That's a massive problem. Because if they're not collected, you've got to put them back in and you're risking rats at that point. Or people might leave them out because they might not realise, and you're risking rats even more at that point. Croydon Council in South London has told residents of the severe impact on waste collection services because of driver shortages, informing residents their refuse teams will get to you as soon as possible. But again, leaving the bins out all day, not a good idea. The only good thing is because it's cold, the stink doesn't get as bad. Nadia, the actor who lives in South London, tweeted earlier this month, Croydon Council, massive bills from you and only one of my bins has been taken. Where am I supposed to put my rubbish? Maybe at the council desk? No, method, don't do that. Another resident in Croydon tweeted, local services is failing and residents are left with overflowing bins, awful smells. I think what will happen is more people will go to like, I don't even know what they're called, like waste places. Words fail me. It's where in England you can like dump off like house waste or recycling and things like that en masse. So I think more people may end up trying to do something like that, where you just drive there and you dump your rubbish because your bins aren't being collected. Two of the biggest council waste contractors, Amy and Viola, are now offering signing bonuses of £1,500 to recruit drivers for council waste collection services. Again, just raise the wages. Like, stop doing this bonus nonsense that's going to be taxed. Just raise wages, honestly. Simon Ellen, Chief Executive of the Recycling Association, which represents some of the major firms involved in refuse collection and recycling, said the shortage of HGV drivers is having a profound impact. If you're a driver, you can go to the highest bidder, and then it's often the supermarket hauliers. It's driving up costs for everyone, and this is a result of the HGV driver shortage. Now, the government spokesperson said the classic, we are moving to a high-wage, high-skilled economy, and the government is encouraging all sectors to adapt and make employment more attractive to UK workers. So, riddle me this, right? How do you make refuse driving a more appealing job? You can't. You can offer more money, but that means council tax has to go up because the councils are the ones who pay for the bin drivers. So unless the government directly fund the councils so they can do this, council tax is going to go up, and you're going to lead to a massive amount of really ticked off people because councils don't like raising council tax because it increases the chance of them getting voted out the next time they have a local election. So this statement here from the government is so stupid. It's unreal. You know, typically you wouldn't want to become a refuse driver. It's a stinky job. It's early in the morning. And it's not the easiest job in the world to do. Now, those sorts of jobs should pay more because they are key to the economy ticking over. £25,000, you're going to have to, that should be higher anyways, but they're going to have to compete with jobs that can pay almost double and that are better. So if the local council in my area said, look, we're going to raise council tax by, I don't know, 20 quid or 30 quid a month or whatever to pay refuse drivers more so we can keep bin collections, fine. But for the time being, councils are in a very sticky situation where if bins aren't being collected, they will be voted out at that point. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.